So first on the agenda, apologies. There appear to be none. Second, conflicts of interest. Councillor Reedman, were you wanting to declare anything at this point?
In the PX section, I'll declare a conflict and step back from the table. Thank you.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it?
Yes, I don't know how he's quite going to step back from the table, but I'll see how that.
I'm not sure either.
Step back.
Yep, so we'll just minute that Councillor Reedman has noted a conflict for the PX agenda. Confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. Anyone happy to move? Councillor Ward?
One correction, I think.
Just to clarify, do we move and then correct?
Yeah.
Or do we correct before moving?
Doesn't
matter? Okay. Yep. Councillor Ward.
I think if it's in there, it's in somewhere, there's a report which states the communication is with Northern Outlook, and the Northern Outlook no longer exists. I'm not sure if it's, yeah.
Okay.
So if that could be deleted, thank you. Otherwise, everything else is good.
Perfect. All right, Mayor Gordon moves. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McLaren. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Were there any matters arising? Appear to be none. There are nil presentations and deputations. Moving straight on to reports. 5.1, updates to the risk management policy and framework. Morning.
Good morning.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will take the report as read, but just to summarise, this report seeks the committee's recommendation to council that they adopt the proposed changes to the risk management policy and risk management framework. The changes are mostly around the roles and responsibilities and the reporting requirements.
Thank you. Any questions of the report? Councillor Bartle.
Thank you, Chair. My question, just read the changes. Are we creating an environment where we're making the responsibilities on some contractors taking it to a higher level than the norms, the community norms, or the normal practices in local businesses? Are we sort of following those sort of guidelines, or is the overall movement of the policy moving to a higher level? Just curious to know.
Oh, okay then. Yeah. So it's just warming up. It's winking at me, but it's not doing anything. I've got one red light. You have to hold it down there. Anyway, at the moment, no, it's basically just the status quo at the moment. You'll realise that some of the health and safety requirements, like roading, for instance, is in another review through NZTA, and that will flow through in our work practices and so forth. What we need to do as a council is, and it's probably later on this year, to look at how much risk that we want to transfer to a contractor rather than take that risk on ourselves through contract management. And so that'll be something that we'll bring to the council. At the moment, we're just dealing with the risks that affect business in terms of fraud and how we mitigate that and so forth. And each unit will has their own specific risks which they attract and they need to mitigate. So we're at that sort of stage at this stage at the moment. But yeah, that's an interesting one in terms of risk transfer. Sometimes it's good to do, sometimes it's not. But it just depends on how much we're willing to let that risk go around road safety, but road safety is probably in our hands at the moment.
Thank you.
Is that a question, Councillor Fulton? Yep, Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and thanks for that question. It's a spirit a similar one, actually, risk transfer to our contractors. I was just in a community group yesterday, happened to meet 3 of the contractors on a certain site. It was to do with health and safety, and I wonder from operationally, are those contractors day to day, do they have to have recourse back to their WDC managers if in doubt, ask the council, or is it actually, are they pretty much delegated to make their own judgments, you know, for their own employer out in the field?
Yeah,
Say on a rainy, windy day like this or something.
Yeah, I'll just give you an example of risk transfer, and it may be putting a pipe under the Kaipui River. We might say to the contract might say, just put a pipe under there, you tell us how to do it, give us the alternative methodology, you take the risk. But to do that, you pay for the price, and it might have a premium on that price. If we specify that we want this pipe in this way to put it under the river, then they will still come up with alternatives and so forth, but it's a matter of actually working through that cost structure that looks like, and how much risk you want to transfer on, and how much that contractor wants to take back. Because halfway through that project, they might strike hard rock, not just silt, and therefore that's a cost to them, not to the council. And so that risk transfer has a number of good things to the council, but also bad, depending on which way you want to take that particular contract or work.
So just as an example, Mr Chair, so in that analogy, strike the rock, it's a difficulty for the project, it's an extra cost for the project, but in which also we can fall back on the council ultimately, but it's also equally a difficulty for the contractor because they can't complete the terms of the job really well, not as originally specified.
Is that a question? I just agree with that.
Just one quick question from me. I noticed that we were shifting the responsibility of providing resources for effective risk management across WDC from council to CE. Does that potentially pose a risk from either this council or future councils under-resourcing the CE to be able to meet that responsibility?
I didn't understand the question, sorry.
So under the responsibilities table, it originally sat with the council to provide resourcing for effective risk management across the WDC, but that's shifted over to the Chief Executive and Management team.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, it doesn't provide any more risk than what I've got at the moment. Under Health and Safety Act, it comes back on me.
Okay, so the council has limited kind of...
Depends on how a number of events. But ultimately, the risk goes back to the Chief Executive.
Okay, no, that's cool. Any further questions? We have the report on the table. Is someone happy to move? Councillor Fulton, seconded Councillor McLaren. Councillor Fulton.
Thank you for this report and your work done on it, and yeah, thanks to my colleague for provoking some stimulating questions and some good responses. So I think we can all see that yeah, the delegations are important. It's a fact of life that the onus of responsibility often falls on our CEO. It's something he carries well, and these kind of reports and policies actually help give some sort of structure so that he's not sort of sitting up there in the top of the pyramid being vulnerable to accidents and mishaps and oversights. So it's good governance from what I can see. So thank you. I'm happy to report this, to endorse this set of recommendations.
Councillor McLaren.
Thank you. Excellent report, and we'd support it. I do just want to note in relation to managing risks, there's quite a difference between contractual risks to health and safety risks. For example, Section 28 of the Health and Safety at Work Act makes it unlawful to contract out health and safety responsibilities. They always remain with the various duty holders, in this case the PCU, which is the council. Jeff, as Chief Executive, you're an officer under that Act, and everyone must manage the risks to health and safety. And I think that's captured in this policy quite well. Do note that it refers to the international standard as being best practice guide. I think it's just a guide.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any further speakers? There appears to be none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll move on to report 5.2, Capital Works December quarterly report. Morning.
Morning.
We will take this report as being read. And just to touch on a few key points, we, as noted, we are 31% based on spend through the program to date. This was to the end of December, which was obviously 50% through the year. However, we have good confidence that we will get to our predicted completion of 80% based on where there is a number of large capital spends in the pipeline to date, and also based on the fact that a lot of the first part of the year is spent in design and planning and getting everything up and going. It also should be noted that there is still some risk which has been listed in the report of projects that may be carried over, which we are mitigating by reducing our spend next year as well, which you should be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the report? Oh, Councillor Doody.
Thank you. Thanks very much for your report. Just questioning with the weather issues that we're having, is that going to impede on your spend?
There's always a risk for weather. We try and manage that, so we try and get our projects out as early as we can in the season. I think we've had a lot of rain, but we've had some good weather as well. So I wouldn't see it as any heightened above any other year. Let's see what the next few months are like. Where we really get into trouble is some of that the projects, because we do actually have a spread of projects that run right through, and it's some of those projects that are still underway as we head into winter. They become more at risk. Look, we do what we can to manage it, but if we got a really wet autumn, then I would say yes, it would have an impact, but it's unlikely to be the case.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I note by department, and it's fairly broad brush, but recreation, predicted completed spend, 58. I think we've had reports of this to CNR as to what the carryovers projects are, but does that seem particularly low? So that, as for such a big group, I mean, yeah, you can talk me through this, Chris?
Yeah, there's a couple of big projects which are sitting in there which will have their money carried over. One will be the Pegasus Community Centre. So that's a big, large spend which won't be completed this financial year. So the money won't be taken in the budget this financial year. That whole thing will be carried over, and then it'll be capitalised in next financial year. So you're aware of the progress on that project. The other one is the land purchase in the east of the district, and we're currently working through a process on that. We expect that to be finished by the end of this year. However, at the moment it's identified as at risk. And the money is identified as carrying over into the next financial year. So combined, those two projects are, sitting around $9 million, which is a significant portion of the overall total recreation capital budget. So you take those two projects out, and the percentage significantly changes.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm compelled to ask about the Mandeville Resurgence project, the complex design, and I know this will probably come back but given there's a design phase and there's also there's still ongoing public consultation phase, I don't know whether, Jared, you're placed to ask, are they in sync? Are we doing this work, and can we make sure that our advisory groups and our communities are in sync with the design as much as possible? So.
No, I can't give you any promises there, I'm afraid. We're from a staff point of view, we're doing everything we can in terms of design, putting the contract out to tender, giving the best advice that we can to our elected members, giving the best advice we can to the Drainage Advisory Group, making sure we are engaging with people. So look, stage 1A should be pretty straightforward and easy, which is just some relatively small pieces. A couple of relatively isolated, straightforward pieces of work, which will actually give some really good effect. Stage 1B, which is the upgrading of all of those driveway culverts, that will require support from elected members that's what you do want us to pursue, and it will also require one-on-one engagement with every single property owner through the year, just to work out how we're going to interact with the frontage of their property. And then stage 2, well, it's a longer term, far more major project, but I can't give you any promises on that one. And it's not because of technical issues, it's just because of community interest.
And just to Mr. Chair, 1A being a really good example, some of those technical fixes that you're doing, they're beyond the scope of the community anyway, as far as actually expertise and knowledge. They are literally of a technical nature, engineering, water flow, etc. Yeah.
I'd look, 1A is actually quite routine. Normally that kind of work we just get on and get it done every year throughout the whole district. We're doing pieces of work like that. We're going to bring a report to the council on this anyway soon. So it's probably a good time to give you the more full update at that point.
Councillor Powell.
Swap microphones, everybody. Sorry, everybody. School safety improvements. So there's been no word from NZTA about funding for...
No official word, but we are proposing to get on with going to the market, anticipating that we'll get the funding, but we have not got that secured yet.
Thanks.
Just one quick question from myself. Under roads and footpaths, just clarifying the at-risk reason of may not complete the full scope under routine resealing and resurfacing, is that we're still aspiring to finish the full scope, but it's linked more to the contract provision, or are there other factors determining it?
I'm just trying to find that section, but that is one of those, if it's the reseal program, we have about a 3-year window to implement it completely. There's been 1 or 2 that we had planned to do this summer, and actually just because of us wanting to coordinate with some other works, we've made a deliberate call to push those, and that means we need to supplement with others. And we definitely do have a summer window for that kind of work, and we don't like to push that into the shoulder season. So from a whole of life asset management point of view, we're not going to push the envelope just to hit a particular milestone this year, but we'll certainly be in a good position to make sure that by the end of next financial year we've certainly matched our funding we've got through the NLTP envelope. So that's probably the best summary I can give you. And there's always risk with that. A lot of the work that you need to do requires pre-seal repair work, and then you need to have the right conditions for doing chip sealing, and you will all be aware of situations where that has not come off successfully for us. So we'd much rather make sure we get it right than hit a particular milestone for one financial year.
Thank you. We've got a mover in Councillor Ward. Do we have a seconder? Mayor Gordon. Councillor Ward.
Thank you for the report, and thank you for all the great work you're all doing. I see that 80% is similar to last year completion, and I note that it's very good to see that the carryovers have been taken into consideration for the budgets for next year, which is very prudent, and we'll be more able to achieve total satisfaction, hopefully, or a better result for next year. So that's a really good step. I also note that we have kept our borrowing at 210 million, the same since the last quarter ending of September, but probably that's more a better comment for 5.4, but I just want to pay tribute to the fact that we haven't increased our borrowing at all, even though we've been continuing doing capital works since September of last year. So well done, well managed. So thoroughly recommend and accept this report. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Mayor Gordon.
Can I endorse those remarks from Councillor Ward, but I also want to say thank you to the team. It's a massive job managing a capital program of this nature, also within the context of dealing with weather events and other things that come along that do take us from our focus from time to time, but keeping that program on track. I remember the days where our capital program, we weren't achieving anywhere near that level because we were very ambitious in the targets that we set as a council, and through working with our staff and through elected members, there was a more manageable target put in place. In fact, what we were putting in the capital program and challenging ourselves. So to get to this point, I think is really good, and that we are measured against. Yes, there are some bits which we would say could on the face of it look behind, but it's, as Chris was observing before, it's all around timing, and as they're straddling financial years, nothing's as simple as it might somewhat appear. Our council is known for its investment in renewal and its infrastructure and keeping ahead of that. That's something we can be very proud of as we're managing the effects of growth and also ensuring that our asset remains and is renewed as we're going along. And we're seeing a lot of that through the works that are going on at the moment, and also picking the time of year where those projects are better undertaken, because when it gets to a wetter climate, then all manner of things don't adhere as well as they should, and the underground infrastructure suffers later, and we have depressions and asphalt and other things that people notice. So it's better to get it done when the timing is right. And so we're seeing quite a lot open at the moment, and I'm getting a bit of feedback from people that are obviously navigating road cones and diversions, but it's a sensible way of that we've managed that, but also taking into account ensuring that the disruption's not as much as it could have been in the way that that's looked at. But our council, with its capital program, is right out there in terms of the investment that we put in, and that's managed through depreciation, it's managed through taking on debt. It's a very, I think, one of those that sets us apart from other councils in that regard and how we manage that. And that's been a long-standing way that our team, led by Jeff and Jared, and right across our organisation now, Chris, in that space of how we calculate and get to that point that makes sure that our capital program is well managed, and also an affordable program that doesn't put undue pressure on our community to be able to afford that. So it's a long-term view, and from what I understand, it's a 150-year infrastructure strategy I don't believe that there are, well, I stand corrected, but I don't believe there's another council in the country that has a program as well thought through and as managed that we've got. And when the auditors come to see us, when Infrastructure New Zealand and other parties come to see us, they're always impressed at the program that we've got. Around the, I was just mentioning weather events, and it's just something I had noted. There's some commentary in the media today about that. We have a funding model that really does need to be seriously looked at, because the abilities of communities to be able to fund that and manage it is a serious challenge, and ours is one. They come along regularly where there's, I think the last major event was nearing $1 million that we're having to fund. It also seriously impacts the program that you've got in place. We are fortunate that because of the way we manage ours, we're in the ability to be able to afford that, and affording is always relative, Mr. Chair. But I have noted, and we have said a number of times that a model that's not dissimilar to the EQC model, where perhaps there's some funding set aside or a levy being considered, is something that the government should seriously contemplate, because of the pressure it puts on smaller communities, particularly. Look at Gisborne, Te Rāwhiti, up in Waikato now. We've probably dodged a bullet this time around, it would appear, fingers crossed and touch wood. But the ability of communities to be able to afford that really worries me. I think the funding model needs to be seriously looked at. It's something we've been advocating for some time. So it's something that I see other councils are now also advocating for as they grapple those challenges. There was talk about the, as Councillor Fulton mentioned before, around Mandeville and those. I just observed that our engineers and our team put forward great programs, and then elected members come along and press pause on those. So that's our doing. But actually the reason for that is to make sure we get a broader buy-in, and we are aware that there are varying views in the community out there of what they've experienced over that time, and being able to ensure that we get on with that staged work is really important. It's something I don't want to see us delay any further, because the 2014 floods were an example of what can go wrong. And so those works that the staff have recommended are the right ones. I think it's been through enough process now. We've just got to now get on and get it done. We've worked with the advisory groups, and we've got just some more communication with our community about that. But I think that it's been through good enough process. Stage 2 is another matter. I'm not convinced at this stage that what's proposed is necessarily the right program. I'm not necessarily against what's proposed, but I think there's a lot more rigour to go into that to make sure that what's planned, because it's significant capital amounts, is actually going to make the difference. And I think we've got consenting challenges in that space as well. But I just really want to acknowledge our team and the work that they're doing, managing a very large program. Jared, I appreciate the understanding the team give us when we press pause on big projects in order to get greater buy-in, and how your team with you understand the nature of politics at times, which is making sure that we get community buy-in and that there is acceptance that those things that we're planning are the right things, and we've done our due diligence appropriately before we hit the green light. But thank you again to the team. I think there's a really good piece of work that's been done here, and I think we can be proud of that achievement. And the measurement at 80%, if that's where we end up, is something that collectively as a council, it's a really ambitious program at the best of times, but getting to that level is fantastic, so well done.
Thank you. Any further speakers to the report? There appear to be none, so I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Item 5.3, approval of rates remission. Good morning.
Good morning. So my report this morning requests that the Audit and Risk Committee consider approving a remission for rates relief under the policy for rates remission under miscellaneous circumstances for a property in Oxford that was severely damaged by fire in December 2025. The house is not suitable for habitation at present, and we're seeking to offer the relief for the remainder of the financial year. I take it you've had the opportunity to read my report, and I will welcome any questions you may have for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to the report? Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions was actually just a slightly process-based, but given what we see in front of us and the pictures and the condition of the house, do we have to come back and implement this mechanism again for the following year or something if they're still in the same position? Why? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I can answer. Sorry.
Yeah.
So what happens? So what we've done, we've approached our valuation provider QV, and they have reduced that capital value for them. So now they're only basically paying for the land. So we're not charging any land-based rate. Any dwelling-based rates. So they're not going to be effective from July 1st, 2026. It's just for this remainder.
That's a holding position there until
year.
there's something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when they build another house, then the following rating year, the improvement will go up, and then they'll be rated for a dwelling again.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Any further questions? There appears to be none. Oh, Councillor Doody. Moved Councillor Doody, seconded Councillor Bartle. Councillor Doody.
Thank you. Just looking at the, just heart goes out to that family. Everything's lost completely, and whatever we can do to help them in any way possible is very important to do so. So I heartily adopt what you've chosen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bartle.
Thank you. I support that totally. I think the tragedy they've been through is bad enough, and if we can ease that, we will, then that's great.
Mayor Gordon.
Totally endorse those remarks. Yeah, but for the grace of God, we have experienced something as tragic as that. You look at the photos, it's heartbreaking. I really like the flexibility that we show in that space, and thank you for bringing it to us. Everyone there are circumstances that come along, and I know that our team, from a rating perspective, from what I've observed from people that come to me who, for a range of circumstances, they're always treated fairly and in a way that tries to help people through their troubled circumstances. In this respect, this is one that's absolutely worthy, and I fully support.
Councillor Fulton.
Just to echo the sympathy of colleagues there, got to say the circumstances, or as reported here, with relation to the lithium battery and unlike you, Mr. Chair, I'm no expert, but the apparent heat in this fire gives me absolute chills looking at it. I mean, yeah. So I don't know whether longer term council's got some role in this space, or it's best left to others. But I really sympathise for the owners, and I think we're making the right decision here. So thank you.
Any further speakers? Appear to be none. I don't think there was anything to reply to. Councillor Doody.
No, I'm just looking at, I'm making a comment here, but just looking at the background, where their garden is and things like that. That house was obviously loved and well cared for. So this is just a real tragedy, and I really feel very strongly for the family concerned, because they've obviously lost totally everything.
All right. I solemnly put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. With regret.
It's just like no-brainer. Think about that going forward.
Item 5.4, financial report for the period ended December.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This report is to inform the committee of the financial result to the end of December 2025. The council had a surplus of 5.4 million against a budget of 11 million. There's explanation in the report, but that's mostly from subsidy and DC revenues being down and roading maintenance costs being over budget. Debt remains at 210 million. We've not raised any new debt during the year so far. I think the reason for this was discussed a bit in the report on capital expenditure, because the general pattern is for capital expenditure to have more capital expenditure to happen in the second half of the year than the first half of the year. As a result of that debt, and also because of interest rates being lower than we budgeted for, interest costs have been lower than budget, so the interest costs have been 4 million for the 6 months against the 5.4. Yeah, as I said, that's a mixture of the actual interest rates being lower than we budgeted, and we haven't raised any new debt yet. And on the cash side, if you look at the cash flow report, which is on page 109, cash from operations was 19 million over the 6 months. And we've spent that on investing, which is mostly our capital program. Cash spent on investing was 29 million. Are there any questions on the report?
Any questions, Councillor Fulton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Paul. Just given that figure of 210 at the moment, and as our organisation grows, our capital spend grows, does that mean that much talked about sort of debt to equity ratio? Where are we sitting at the moment with that? Is it stable? Is it proportional? Oh, it's another figure, isn't it? It's not debt to equity.
Yeah. So the one that LGFA uses is net debt to operating revenue.
To operating revenue.
Yeah, and that operating revenue is our revenue, but it excludes vested asset revenue, and it excludes DCs. So so at the moment that's 129. I did the calculation assuming for the 6 months it's exactly the same and doubled it basically. So if you take that, it'd be 129% now. But again, if in the next 6 months I assume to be we'll be raising more debt, so by the end of the year that will go up slightly.
Okay. And just within a year, do you have a band of how much you might expect that to move? Is it like 3% either way or something in terms of, or is it possible to even calculate? You know, what's the parameters?
Yeah, it would go into the low 130s, so it'll be around about where we were at the end of last year. So it'll be somewhere between 130, 135%.
We do that 10-year projection, so I think it worked out around about 134% after 10 years. So there's some large capital works program around year 4 and 5, you know, for the likes of the Ringa East and Link and so forth, which props up a little bit, but it then comes down after that period of time back within that comfortable zone where we expect to retain our AA credit rating, which is effectively better than the banks.
Thank you. Councillor Barton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 110, it shows external borrowing 210 as stated, in budget for the whole year will be 256. So that's $46 million more. So just for understanding, if we are achieving 80% of projects based on last year, would it be an assumption to round it to the point and say that probably only 80% of that 46,000 will be borrowed? Is that a logical assumption?
Yeah, my prediction at this moment we'll probably raise maybe another 15, depending on how much cash we spend between now and then. So somewhere at least 225 it'll get to, and yeah, but you're right, it won't get to the 250.
Thank you.
There's two pieces to that as well. It's important to think about it from a spend perspective, so completion's only part of it. You've also got to think about the inflation impact that would sit within there as well. So it's purely capital completion from a spend perspective, so it's not necessarily a percentage of projects completed when it comes to the debt.
Cool. We have a move. Do we have any further questions to the report? Appear to be none. Moved Councillor Ward, seconded Councillor Fulton. Councillor Ward.
I would have to say we're in a very, very healthy situation. All the indices are well under what we've been in the past. We're still growing our asset base. We're still investing in our growth in the community. And I really applaud our financial team in really managing very tightly our purse. And so well done to you, Paul, and all the team for a sterling effort. And the reasons for the little crosses are really out of our control, but they are really not to be worried about. We're still maintaining our level of builds in the which is really important, residential builds, which brings in a lot of development contributions and things, which really helps keeps everything in perspective. So I think that's a really good trend. We're looking very bright for the future, but we still have to invest and not stop while we've got this great ability, and the interest rates are probably as low as they're going ever to be. We're making the most of getting capital works completed and finances in place. So, and the hedging that you do with the advice from Miles is really appreciated, the work that you do there. So we're in great hands. Even though we're a little less than budget, there's reasons for it, and it's all relative. So thank you very much, and I thoroughly recommend that we accept this recommendation, and that we understand the reasons for the decrease in surplus for now. But anyway, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Paul and team. I really appreciate those responses to, particularly my understanding of our debt to operating revenue and the cost of servicing that debt. I'm really comforted by the fact that it's sort of stable, sort of within that band over such a long period of time, even within a year, with all the extra costs and capital works to come. Sounds like it's well under control, and it's also an endorsement, of course, to the staff and across the different teams. One thing I'd sort of note there is that I think we talked about the peak of our spend and our loans. It was only 2 or 3 years ago, I felt like 28, 29, and those pointy graphs were looking quite scary, but that's only a couple of years away now, and we're still living in the present, and we seem to be managing okay. And I know that the debt servicing costs have come down a lot, thankfully, but it's really encouraging that we're on track to really potentially knock off some really big projects, some capital works that have been in the plan for a long time, and that we've still got our finances under control. So the peak is coming, but we seem to be managing okay. So that's really good. So well done, and thanks for the way you've reported this.
Just to say, endorse comments from colleagues, and want to acknowledge the team's effort here. Our whole question of debt and how we manage things was well and truly tested through the election period. A whole range of ridiculous speculation that was going on around all manner of things. And you know, when Miles came to see us from Bancorp, who are the recognised experts, talked about our council being one of the best in the country and how we manage this. So I don't think we should ever rest on our laurels, because that's not what we do here. But believing that there was a problem there versus our asset, some unfortunately were just grossly misrepresenting the true position. When we've got an asset of, was it 2.8, 2.9 billion, somewhere of that order, the debt compared to that was a small fraction of that. That's not to say that you don't want to, that we would rather not have debt and be in a less indebted situation. Of course we'd like to, but actually it's about managing appropriately intergenerational equity here, and making sure that today's ratepayers are not the only ones contributing to assets that future generations will benefit from. And just because it's sitting in our long-term plan, which we are required to by law to identify projects, doesn't mean that they will necessarily be constructed or be undertaken there. It will always be a question of what we can afford and what's the prudent approach. We're sitting at one of the lower rates, and certainly Canterbury, if not within the rest of the country at the present stage, of 4.91, is it 4.91, 4.92, 4.91%. But that doesn't mean that just because we're at that level, that we can't be savings identified and other opportunities that come along. Our community is facing, I think we've come out of some of the more challenging environment, but we're still not out of the woods yet. So the ability to be able to afford programs and future work programs needs to be very carefully balanced. So I guess as we're coming into our next long-term plan, as we start to plan that, we'll just need to work through that carefully, but also not ensuring that we don't fall behind, because we are a growing district, and as a growing district we need to make sure that we're providing and keeping on investing in the things that are important that people expect us to have, like the provision we put in years ago for the stadium. Unfortunately, post-earthquake, we're still carrying a fair amount of debt from that time to ensure that we, as a percentage of that, certainly that present external debt, there's a fair chunk of that that comes from that. That was the right thing to do, to make sure that our assets were built back and are protected for the future. We're in a much stronger position than a number of councils because of how we've managed that. So I think we can just look at this and feel very comfortable. That's always something that we need to keep our eye on and make sure that we are prudent and responsible. And I know that's the level of direction that Jeff, Chris and the team certainly observe from the direction that they get from this table, which is to make sure that we are a prudent and responsible council.
Thank you, Mayor Gordon. You wanted to exercise your, any further speakers to the report? You would like to exercise your right of reply?
I'd just like to add that it's really pleasing to see that we're still, every time I look at figures and things like that, is that we're grabbing depreciation back, which is really, really important. So that's probably a hidden expense which is affecting our figures, but it's going to be sitting there looking after the future. So I can say to Jeff and Chris and the team, thank you for that. It's really important, but it's just one of those things that you go, you know, that's affecting our bottom line, but it's also providing for the future. So,
thank you. I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 5.5, reporting on Leguima requests. Morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. This is the quarterly report that comes to the Audit and Risk Committee to report on the Leguima request that the Council received. For the period October to December, we received 59 official requests. We responded to 63. And I am open to any questions that the members might have. Thank you.
Councillor Perrin.
Thank you. Excellent report. I just have a question around the reported time spent processing the requests. It's noted at 4.3 and 4.4 the number of requests, and the total time is 113 hours. So, that's roughly about 2 hours per request. So clearly some would be quick, some would take a lot longer. But that actually seems very, very fast and efficient, given the amount of people that might be drawn upon to help put together a response. And I just want to ensure that it's being correctly captured and reported, the amount of actual time spent by all staff in assisting in those requests.
Through you, Mr. Chairperson, we have a standard format that we send out to all the staff members dealing with Lugwema requests, and in that standard form they are requested to indicate what the amount of hours is that they spend on a request. We also have a standard practice to first ask them if they know how long it might take them to actually respond. And then if we perceive that it will be taking longer than 2 hours, we actually go back to the applicant and ask them to redefine or refuse due to the research that it will take actually to compile the request. That's why the average time taken on a request is approximately 2 hours.
Thank you. Mayor Gordon?
Thanks, Chair. Just further to Councillor McLaren's question, if it's over 2 hours, what's our policy? Is it to charge? And do we indicate that to those who are asking perhaps more in-depth questions?
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor, we don't really have a policy setting a time frame because Lugwema doesn't allow it, but as an internal practice, what we do is we evaluate each request, we determine how long it might take us to respond, we then send a letter to the applicant and telling him that it will take approximately, let's say, 24 hours to deal with the response, and we then provide the applicant the opportunity to redefine their request. So because anything over 2 hours, which Lugoi must say that we can provide them for free, we then say that we will charge that in terms of the charging schedule as provided by the Justice Department. So they actually do have the opportunity to redefine and narrow the request so that we can actually do it in the 2 hour period that we have set aside for staff time to deal with the request.
Thanks, Tia. And how many would be in the category of us charging? Once you've gone back, is there many that sort of fall in that category that would then be in that situation to be charged?
Through you, Mr. Chairperson, to this date, we usually have 1 or 2 every 3 months. That is an extensive request. And then when we have actually gone back to them, they have redefined their request or they have opted not to receive the information. So we have not actually charged anybody yet for an official Lugwema request.
Yeah, in the light of being transparent, we generally are quite liberal. So if it goes over the 2 hours and gets to 3 hours, that's why you see that the average is over 2 hours. We provide the information if we can. If it's an unreasonable request, which is going to spend like a week work on it, we would go back and get them to redefine it and say, what are you actually after here? Because sometimes some of the requests come in and they really want just one simple answer when it comes down to it. And so we try and triage it a little bit before we actually get into the request. But this month I've asked for the average time that we spend on a request, and it's just over 11 days, which is almost half the Act requirement. So we're doing pretty well in that space. So, I mean, our key thing is not to look like we're not giving the information out, that we're being fully transparent, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So we do go over that 2 hours sometimes.
Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going through the register, and I note that we've categorised it firstly by different types of requester, but then the subject of a lot of these, some of them seem like very much like service requests. Like if someone had asked me for information, I would ask the councillors and yourselves, And how do you determine what's a service request and what's Lagoima? Do people have to specify that's Lagoima or?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, while we actually vet the application, if it is a service request, we will send it through as a service request. For a Lagoima request, they must actually ask for information. So it's not for something to be done or for something to be fixed. There has to be some information that the council keep that we have to provide. Any request, they don't have to say it's a Lagoima request. Any question asked to the council can actually be a Lagoima request. It's up to the council to decide how they will be dealing with the request.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you determine, say, if it's of a commercial or a sensitive nature, do you determine that? If you determine it's someone asking about their neighbour's property, some of the subject headings suggest that. People want to know about what their neighbour's property values or their, structures or whatever. Do you determine that, whether it's?
First thing that we do determine is how sensitive the information is that we're going to provide. Then we determine if we will be providing the information in terms of the provisions of the Act, and also requests that we do believe has got a broader implication to the district. We also try to actually deal with them as Lagoima requests.
Thank you.
If a person writes into us and says they're asking the information under Lagoima, we provide it under the Lagoima. We have no option. Sometimes we'll go back to them, we look at it, it's just a service request, and so we can actually put that in our system and turn it over within the same day sometimes. But you'll find that some of those will go through our service request system as well as being answered through our governance team.
Thank you. Just a really quick question from me under the Ombudsman's report. I noticed that one of our investigations, sorry, I was struggling to read the table last night. What administrative deficiencies were identified and what recommendations were provided?
I'm sorry, which?
It's on page 164 of our report. There's an Ombudsman's report after your report. Yes.
It's not our process.
It wasn't our process?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine.
There are ones that go through the Ombudsman.
Yeah.
And it's not our process, but what happens is they might ask the council, in some instances, to provide information that is provided to the inquiry. So it's outside of our normal process.
Okay. So we don't have to worry about that.
Well, yes, we do, because if they go through the Ombudsman, there is an issue.
Yeah.
And we want to resolve it as fast as we can, so that it's not being seen as a negative towards the council. So we're quite respondent to those sorts of requests here.
Okay, good to hear. All right, any further questions? Oh, okay, we've got a mover on Councillor McLaren. Do we have a seconder? Neil Gordon. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge just how well you appear to be managing this really, really important process. It's critical that we have full transparency of all activities, and this is a really good way of ensuring that. I also want to acknowledge the not charging for requests that follows this access to information. And the example you gave at 6.3 about going back and redefining the request to ensure that it is actually what they want is, in my experience, something that's quite common, and you can bring it back down into acceptable parameters. Or those who really do want, screeds and screeds of information are often prepared to pay for it because they're going to use it for some legal process or what have you. I signed the Official Secrets Act, I'm showing my age a little bit here, where nothing was allowed to be released to anyone. There was the strict instructions. Then in 1982, when the Official Information Act came in, we were trained to do exactly the opposite, and of course later on Lagoima came in. So my experience is around I've had a lot of experience in the time it takes to process those, to follow those, and to see the Ombudsman's report. To me, that was a glowing report for this council And I just want to acknowledge the work that you put in there and encourage you to keep going with that and not charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. Mayor Gordon.
Thank you, and I endorse those remarks and I certainly subscribe to and believe that we should always be an open and transparent council, and also that where we can, as Chair and the team are doing, is responding quickly to requests that come in. Sometimes it takes a bit longer, and I think managing those expectations is important, but also going back and clarifying. Look, at the end of the day, I'd rather we weren't charging at all if we didn't have to, but if people are after a large tranche of information that's simply going to take many days to put together, and the offer of reducing that back to a more manageable isn't taken up, well then there's always that right. But in the principle of charging, I've never felt totally comfortable about because it goes against openness and transparency. But sometimes there is just we may well need to exercise that because of the nature of just how much time it does actually take to put some things together. And as you're saying, Councillor McLaren, oftentimes, and as the CE was mentioning, when you go back and clarify, it may well be just a point that they're actually looking for, rather than a whole swathe of emails or whatever else that may be just generically requested because someone's just undertaking a bit of a look for something which they're not entirely clear what they do want, but on further reflection they may well be. And when you look through the list of items here, yes, you're right, perhaps, Councillor Fulton, there are perhaps some service request related matters or a little further detail being looked into. So that is what it is. We were one of those councils that in the early, it was a few years ago, I think we were one of 8 in the country that went through an inquiry with the Ombudsman. We were never too sure why we were included in that, but there were very minor changes that were suggested as a result of that. The CE and myself were interviewed independently and grilled in different floors of the building, which is fine. It's all about making sure that the processes we have stand the test of scrutiny. So we came out of there in a very good space, and it was an interesting exercise to go through, but also just tested where we were at our level of compliance to the Goima. And look, ultimately, if you do get an inquiry of things, there's always things you can learn from. I've never had a problem with standing the test of scrutiny, because that's what it's all about. When you hold public office, we're held to a standard, which is rightly so, that we are open and transparent in our dealings. So never have a problem with that. So good report, Tia. Thank you for what you and the team do and all the efforts that go into making sure that the public get the right level of information they need.
Any further speakers? Councillor Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just an opportunity, whether it be at the Goima or routine service request, the responsiveness of the governance team and linking to staff is much appreciated. I seem to have had 2 weeks of a flurry of people from roads to property inquiries and something. Invariably, you get a response of some, and a good substantial initial response as well, directed through the governance team. And I like the idea of triaging, because in some cases, even the Goima ones could be more in the realm of service requests, and my goodness, it takes a lot of heat out of the issue if someone can feel that they're being responded to, and that someone is maybe in some cases finally in touch, and there's a response underway. So the communication goes a long way to resolving the issue itself, I find. So thank you and well done for that.
Any further speakers? Do you wish to exercise your right of reply, Councillor McLaren?
I actually got another question.
This is not
looping.
Yes, that's absolutely.
I'm just curious around the request for CCTV footage on road accidents and whether we routinely release that information.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we only release that to the insurance companies and to the New Zealand Police.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any further speakers? I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. We'll quickly sidetrack over to portfolio updates. 6.1, audit risk, annual and long-term plans. Councillor Joan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The annual plan consultation document has progressed well. This is planned to be adopted for consultation later this morning or this afternoon sometime. Key highlights include rates increase of 4.91% compared to the budgeted increase on 4.95% in year 3 of the LTP. Updates provided to the community on the current reform program impacting local government, especially informing on simplifying local government, resource management reform, rates capping, the Emergency Management Bill and Infrastructure Funding and Financing Act changes. How and why we have reduced a capital program to a deliverable program from 73 million to approximately 61 million. Updates on the status of setting up our internal business unit for local water done well reforms, including showing that we are within the lowest 3 councils for cost increases by 2034. An update on the progress of the Rangiora Eastern Link following Council's decision in December to bring forward design works to progress the business case. Planning for the long-term plan has commenced with approaches agreed for updates to assist management planning and preparation in place for the strategy day with Council on the 24th of February 2026. Finance staff have been assisting on key local government reform submissions as subject matter experts, primarily those that are of a financial nature, including rates capping, development levies, and the infrastructure funding and financing arrangements. They're doing an amazing job. This work has been important to ensure strongly considered positions on matters which impact our key revenue streams, future and financial strategy. Any questions?
Any questions to the report? There appears to be none. Thank you very much, Councillor Wall. I just want to thank Councillor Shona Powell in particular for your attendance this morning, since you're not technically a part of this committee, but I see that your reports come to us, so thank you for coming in. Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do have an update from the communications team. And something that I didn't realise was that, you know, when there is a heavy rain watch, the communications team take the public information management function in the civil defence, so they're often starting well ahead of many other teams of anything being declared. So they're on that watching brief at the moment. So social media, the primary channel, Facebook, the reach is tracking as expected, with just on 672,000 views in the last month. So total audience is now 27,236, and a lot of that is around the audience first approach that's being taken, as well as the push campaign for Do You Know? Website stats are from January the 1st to the 15th. We've got around 53 active users, and that seems slightly lighter than usual, but probably reflective that people are actually away on holiday. So the most popular pages were about swimming pools and rubbish and curbside opening hours over the Christmas New Year period. The Do You Know campaign, the aim is to continue this as a Your Council education series, which started in the last quarter of 2025. So they've been using digital channels such as TVNZ On Demand, Met Service, Stuff, etc., geo-targeted to our residents, as well as some physical signage in the town centres. Not sure about you, but I watch TVNZ On Demand a bit, and every now and then I hear Alistair's voice popping through the through the TV, and see the campaign there. So the campaign's been really well received, sitting around 550 unique visits to the landing page. Video counts are much higher. So the primary outcome is awareness and They believe that's tracking as expected. There'll be final metrics for each channel will be available at the end of March. And one that we're all aware of is the local government reforms page, which was established on our website. And that has 620 unique visits so far. So as council submissions are being finalised and more information is becoming available, that is being uploaded as we go along. And from what I've heard from various people around the place, it's being very well received. So it's the engagement, yes, it's very busy with the draft annual plan consultation and the full document as well. The youth action plan and welcoming communities are sitting with the teams. There are 4 engagements active this week. The traffic and parking bylaw, the draft of that. That opened on the 15th of, no, it might be the 15th of February, it's not the 15th of January, 15th of February. The library survey and the beach user survey. The beach users survey is open until around mid-March sometime. So that's really aimed at people actually using the beach. So there's posters with QR codes at all the beaches. And there is a targeted engagement to residents of Mill Road around the stormwater management area. So media, the press have assigned a new reporter to cover Waimakariri. Please welcome Louisa, sitting at the media table. I'm not sure did you draw the short straw or the long straw?
Sorry?
Did you draw the short straw or the long straw to get?
Just, yeah.
Just here.
Yeah, highlight.
So media releases have been proactively released to promote many roadworks taking place over the summer, as well as the local government reforms page, the annual plan updates and changes to service hours. There were 25 queries for January and 14 for February so far from the media. January was primarily around local government reforms, subdivisions and profiles. February has been dominated by multiple media seeking comment on insurance and Woody End, the temporary stop on insurance. That's my update.
Thank you very much. Any questions of the update? Councillor Fulton.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair. Just to may direct a question through you, Councillor Powell. Do we have a facility for targeted sort of community consultation? And I'll give you an example of the Waimakariri Gorge Bridge, issues of a local consequence, pump track in Oxford or something. It's not going to fall within the ambit of the over WDC communications program, but we just need something a little bit more focused. I don't know whether we can direct that, because some of these have local heat but have no wider consequences. We just seem to miss out sometimes in communicating.
We had a portfolio meeting, both Councillor Redmond and myself, the other day with our roading staff, and strongly suggested that the comms need to be better with respect to the Waimakariri Gorge Bridge, because there has been a lot of work being done. It's actually understanding what that work was done. So they were to work with Alistair's team. I'm not sure if they've done that yet, but they need to make sure that comms is where it needs to be. So Alistair, if you could follow up with Joanne and the team. Also was the old Waimakariri Bridge, because that also looks a bit shabby, and there is a reason for that, is that they're planning to put guardrails on the side. Christchurch City Council take the lead on that project, but in the absence of that, people will think, well, we're not maintaining it. Well, actually is a perfectly good reason why spend money on repainting something when it's due to be replaced, but we've just got to get the comms better on that. But both those projects do need a particular focus and an update on our website, or an update of some sort would be most helpful, because in the absence of that, people jump to conclusions that may not necessarily be informed. But that's certainly a comms project that both Councillor Redmond and I identified in our portfolio meeting last week, and I understand it was raised at the community board as well.
And I just pick up on that, yes, it was raised, and the Waimakariri Gorge Bridge in the form of a question is that cannot we coordinate our media releases with SDC, please? Because we've got a lot of cases where it's the SDC release or whatever that is shared, and then we're backtracking before we even know it. You know, opening and closing times, whatever. I just, you know, maybe from my work background, I just think that we could coordinate our those releases.
Just to be clear, both the Waimak Gorge Bridge, Selwyn District Council take the lead on that, and the same with the old Waimakariri Bridge, Christchurch City Council take the lead on it, but it's about us being proactive too, to make sure that that comms is right. We've also got the comms lens for our community, because both bridges are particularly important to our district.
Vital.
Excellent. Any further questions? Thank you very much, Councillor. Customer Services, Councillor Doody.
Thank you. I will be truthful with you. Because of my injury, I haven't really been actively engaging with them. I have spoken with Chris last month, and I'll be doing the same, but I've not been able to tie up a time. Right. But so this, from now on, yes, I will be. Yeah.
No worries.
But it was very helpful speaking with Chris. It just really appreciated the time we've spent giving us. Thank you.
Good to hear. Procurement, efficiencies and savings, Councillor Barton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not too much to bring to the table at the moment. There's a lot of work going sort of on behind the scenes. Obviously, the team with finance and Chris's team have been very busy with what's been going on in the 12-month budget and the yearly budget, annual budget. And there has been some savings due to the staff. Ryan is working in this with the contracts with Delta and Green Space and Trees. So that's all positive because it has a great effect in the outcome, because it does help bring the rate costs down. There's been other savings that have been found with software-ish software changes on the timing of when to use them, and savings made there. And so, and there's ongoing work being done in a number of areas and contracts at the moment, which hopefully we'll report on in the not too distant future. So, yes, it's moving slowly in the background. Obviously, it's not something that happens overnight. It takes time. And to do it in such a way that doesn't cause a negative outcome is also very important. So, but that's pretty much all I've got to add. Thank you.
Any questions to the report? Councillor Fulton.
A bit of a late one, thank you, Mr. Chair, but Councillor Barton, how does this work feed into our tender assessments and our, you know, our specs for tenders and contracts efficiencies? Will this actually flow into that sort of work at staff level, or what's the relationship there?
That's a good question, probably one better answered by Chris at this point.
I think our work program at the moment is to look at the strategy first, and obviously we've had that policy update November, and then the strategy will form into the policy, and then all the application guidance and things that sit under it. So at the moment, it's sort of a top-down approach from strategy into that guidance that will affect those tender practices over time, but it's about getting that strategy right first.
So do you think eventually that based on that strategy, that top-down, that there will be identified efficiencies that even at, you know, when someone puts in for work for drilling a well or something, or putting in a pipe, there are actually things that become part of our criteria, assessment criteria?
Well, definitely, a key part of our strategy is around value for money. So, I mean, ultimately, that's going to drive a lot of the pieces within that. So I think it's something that we really want some engagement on when we put that strategy up and form it and refine it, and because you know, it will be important in that space.
There appear to be no further questions. Thank you very much, Councillor Bartle. Any questions under standing orders? Any urgent general business? No? Okay. So we'll move on to section 9, matters to be considered with public excluded. So I will move from the chair that we enter public excluded. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Doody. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much.
For something,